Welcome to Backseat Directing.
We're your hosts,
Arron,
and Andrew.
and today we're going to be talking about our first impressions of the first episode of She-Hulk.
Let's get into the show.
All right, here we are. We're going to be talking about our first impressions to She-Hulk Attorney at Law. It just came out. We watched it a few
Last
days ago.
Wednesday,
Last Thursday. So it's been 3 days,
yeah,
4 days or so since
right
we last
after
saw it.
right after it came out. It's starring Tatiana Maslany as She-Hulk,
Jennifer
Mark
Walters.
Jennifer Walters' alter ego. It's starring Mark Ruffalo, or Ruffalo, as I like to say, as the Hulk or Bruce Banner. And we saw our first appearance of our villain in the show, Jamila Jamil.
All right. So, what were your expectations going into this show?
So I don't know the character of She-Hulk all that well. I've known of the character of She-Hulk for a while, but I don't know too much about her comics wise. She seems interesting. My expectations honestly set pretty low. I didn't hear great things about the show before it was released on Disney Plus to the general public,
Mm,
and I didn't hear a lot of excitement for it. So, and also, I'm going in with a low bar makes it kind of easier to watch things, and I haven't been incredibly impressed with most of the TV show products that we've gotten that far from the MCU.
yeah.
There were ones
I feel
that
like a
I
lot
really
of them have
liked.
been like average.
Yeah,
Not good, but not bad either.
it's okay to be average. I mean, and that's just our opinion, but
Yeah.
I feel like Disney's pushing a lot of content. I mean, not just the MCU, but Star Wars. So when you're putting out so much stuff, it's hard to still be too focused on quality with so much quantity. I mean,
Yeah.
it's gonna happen. They're producing a lot of scripts. They got a lot of actors and a lot of balls in the air. I thought some of the shows played really well. I thought this first episode was fun, entertaining. I mean,
Yeah.
I thought like you said. I mean, I think it's fair to say good, not great. But it's first episode of a show. I mean,
Yeah.
so there's room to go up. But what do you think?
I think my expectations going in were kind of neutral. Like I I mentioned in the first episode, like I don't really like watching a bunch of trailers. I want to learn about the character and the story as I'm watching the actual show, especially when it comes to Marvel stuff because they put everything in their trailers, and I want to have that surprise. So I haven't really like looked into the character that much, and I don't really know much about the comics either. But I'm always interested in a character that has like two sides to them. You know, um, that's why I liked Moon Knight so much. Um,
It was a good show.
yeah,
That could be seen as an upside too, though, going in not knowing as much with less
right.
expectation because, I mean, so many of us didn't know much about the Guardians of the Galaxy, and like, look how much people love them now. I mean,
Yeah,
Marvel has had the gift of taking little known characters and making us love them, convincing us to love them, and building them
I
up.
mean, even the Avengers, like that wasn't even their biggest teams, in the actual comics originally.
Yeah.
Like it was X-Men
Spider-Man was
and
big, Fantastic Four.
Fantastic Four were like the big like teams.
Yeah.
So they they worked with all these characters that weren't as known and they made them into household names.
Yeah, I think that's
Um,
a common misconception too, because Avengers are so beloved now that it was just always that way. So
right.
I think people kind of are quick to doubt things like She-Hulk, or some of these other newer projects, newer characters, like Miss Marvel and all these characters that I'm sure we're gonna, even if they're not your favorite character right now, they're gonna grow and
Yeah.
move up your list of favorite characters. I'm sure it'll change as they develop.
Yeah. I feel like a lot of the chatter about this show is about the CGI. Um, but I mean, it's a TV show. And like even though it's not being released on TV anymore, it's being released on their actual platform. Like it's kind of the same thing. I'd imagine their budget is a little bit higher than maybe like the CW's shows and stuff, but that's kind of my expectation going into these is like these are still shows, not movies. And like I think that's hard for a lot of people to go from 11 years of really good movies and storytelling and also CGI and stuff for the most part, and then go into like a show level.
Yeah, I also think The Mandalorian kind of threw a wrench in that because The Mandalorian, I think, looked really incredible when the
Hmm.
first season came out. And that being produced by Disney, I think, set a really high bar for other shows to come.
Yeah. Star Wars and The Mandalorian, though, I think is a lot more grounded, like especially since it's from a series that started so long ago. A lot of their effects were not digital. There were practical effects or costumes and makeup and all that stuff,
My brain more readily accepts the practical effects like that. The
Exactly. Like it,
person, and when it's Star Wars, when
yeah,
it's
like that stuff doesn't pass as well when it's the Avengers and the MCU. So it's a little bit different in that aspect that Star Wars is a little more grounded than the MCU, I think.
so in regards to the CGI, you had a quote from the director Jessica Gao.
Yeah, so it's kind of a long quote, so I'm gonna try to kind of skim through it a little bit. But she's saying, I just knew CGI was expensive. From the beginning, I asked Kevin Feige, how much can we do? How cost conscious should I be? Give me some guidelines. And he said, if I'm gonna watch a show called She-Hulk, I want to see She-Hulk, which is a character that is fully CGI. So every time you see her, it's dollar signs to Marvel and Disney Plus. Um, so she goes on to say, in this interview that she was having, she's like, I hope we remember this conversation and when the budgets come back and someone gets mad at me
Yeah.
for it. Um, so she goes on to say, I'll kind of wrap it up here. She goes on to say that kind of as things went on, she was like, hey, can you guys cut out this scene of She-Hulk,
Yeah.
and make it Jessica Walters, like, can you cut out this? Can you have a little more less of this? So like it seems like maybe she didn't get the funding that she was hoping that the story to her deserved.
Yeah.
Um, which again, it's hard when it's a TV show and Disney's putting out all of these things, all these other projects. Like it's definitely better that
Yeah.
they put more of that money towards a movie.
One thing that I thought was noticeable was that we were seeing some things in the first episode where she would show up, or she'd be in a scene as She-Hulk, and
Hmm.
then cut into the next scene, um, now as Jennifer Walters, and we don't see any of these transitions, or they kind of do these interesting cuts to avoid showing you the whole transformation,
Yeah.
which I think would be something that special effects wise is costly and something that's hard to do and make look good. So
Hmm.
like they'll show us an aspect, they'll show us her hand, or they'll cut away somehow, or she'll go off screen and come back
They
as
kind of do
She-Hulk.
that shorthand, if you will, in comics a lot too. Like they'll have like a silhouette image, picture drawing, to where like you don't see as much detail, or maybe they'll have like
Yeah,
half the face like blocked out,
uh,
so like the
a bit of
artist
a
isn't
cheat
having to
code.
draw all the details to it, but it still like tells a story because your brain still connects the
Yeah.
dots. Like I've seen her transform once or twice. I know what it looks like
Yeah.
now, so they're kind of playing on that a bit.
The transformation though in Avengers 2012 where Bruce Banner says, that's my secret cap. I'm always angry. And
Hmm.
turns and transforms, and we see the whole transformation is the most epic Hulk transformation that we have. And it's because of us being able to see the whole thing
Yeah, for
and
sure.
the level of work that was put into making that shot happen. So
Yeah.
it would be it's like you said, we just have to accept the difference between television and movie going into it.
Yeah.
But I don't think that she looks particularly bad as She-Hulk. I wish
No.
I like
Her
the
hair's a little stiff at sometimes.
yeah. My
And
fiance Sierra said the same thing that the hair is what makes it look, and that's
yeah.
hard. That's a hard thing to do to
Yeah,
make look
it
good because
is.
they gave her long hair.
Yeah. And then for me, like some of like the flips and jumps and like when she's doing that acrobatic pose
You
when
can definitely notice it then.
yeah, like I wish they would have done something more of like a mocap suit and then used that as like reference and stuff to kind of have someone actually doing that movement rather than creating that whole fully digital because it looked
Yeah.
like oh no one could actually do that.
They could have had somebody who was actually impressive with those kind of yoga poses, do something like that in motion capture. But
Right.
maybe, you could argue that what they're going for is something that no normal human could do.
Right.
But then the human eye naturally is telling you this looks unnatural.
Right. And it's already really hard because you're looking at a girl that's really tall who's all green. So your brain is already thinking, this isn't natural. What is this? It looks wrong. Because
Yeah.
your brain is it's supposed to recognize faces and stuff. And obviously we're very equipped to recognizing humans. So now we see this thing that's kind of human, but it's not.
Yeah.
And now it's doing something that a human naturally wouldn't move in. And I really don't like when they put like weird flips into a show like they did
Yeah.
in Thor Love and
Or
Thunder,
yeah.
like he jumps and all of his momentum is moving forward and all of a sudden he does a backflip, which makes no sense at all.
Yeah.
I don't like it when they add that kind of stuff in. I think you can do that practically a little bit better. Or even just like in that instance, Thor jumping or whatever, him jumping super far and his arms like jacked, like that's cool enough
Yeah.
to me, anyways.
I agree.
Like you don't have to make it look all flippy and stuff.
I think the reason She-Hulk is at a disadvantage, perceptually, is because when we first saw Hulk in 2012, he looked like a monster, and so you
Hmm.
accept it more. She moves like a human as a
Right.
giant green being. So
Yeah. And I saw the Artist React episode, and they were talking about how the Hulk has a lot more texture to his face. Being a guy having stubble and a little more wrinkles and stuff. Like a woman's face is a lot smoother and her skin too. So it kind of just doesn't land some of the times. But sometimes you just have to put that to the side and just kind of be invested in the actual story. Because it still gets the job done. Like the stuff in She-Hulk is better than anything that I could do
yeah,
with CGI. So like,
I think people definitely dogged it too much.
yeah,
It,
I thought it was fine.
yeah.
I didn't like. Well, let's talk about some of the things we did like first.
I have something teed up. So something I did like was getting to see some anger from the Hulk. So getting to see, if you want to call him Smart Hulk, I like to say Professor Hulk. I think it sounds a lot
Yeah,
better.
they like renamed him.
But I think the community's just been calling him Professor Hulk. But so getting to see him get angry, like it makes me hopeful that maybe the Hulk isn't just gone and dead because we kind of lost the Hulk
Yeah,
really at the beginning of Infinity War. And I like that
they
personality of the
have to
Hulk.
be building him up to have a big like breakdown, right? Like how awesome is that
It'd
gonna
be
be?
amazing. I'm glad to see the anger come back to the Hulk because it's such a big part of the character and so integral to like what makes him the Hulk. The rage of and getting to see him lose his cool and actually get angry and Hulk out and fight in this episode. Obviously, I haven't said this yet, but huge spoiler warning because we're doing
Oh
it.
shoot,
This is
yeah.
not a spoiler-free review of She-Hulk, but getting to see him actually fight is just so, and not just fight, but to be angry. We see some
Yeah,
anger build up in him.
yeah,
So I'm hoping that the Hulk just isn't dead and it's not just Banner in the Hulk body.
yeah,
Seems like they built it up so much, this Hulk personality, and we didn't get a true on-screen death of that personality. We
right,
got him off screen and then referencing the fact that he merged the personalities, which
yeah,
really just seems like his personality took the Hulk's body.
yeah. Um, I liked the conversation between Jennifer and Bruce about controlling her anger. And I feel like that's a little controversial right now of like her voicing her opinions as a woman and then also the other side of it of like her not taking into account the Hulk's experience of
Yeah.
the last 15 years. But like I feel like that's a common thing, like a lot of times and a lot of experiences when you're learning something or performing a job, like you have your experiences to go off of. And you can take bits and pieces from other places, but doesn't mean you're going to take everything. And like it's kind of like being a teenager, like you think you know everything, but you don't. And that could possibly be a character arc of her, like she talks about being able to control her anger as a woman because of people in her profession thinking that she doesn't know what she's talking about and catcalling her and all that stuff. Uh, so she can control her transformation back and forth maybe better than Bruce did at first. But they also said that it was a different experience. Bruce said he had two different personalities. She has one. So it's a little bit different. You know, there he had an internal fight with those two personalities. She doesn't seem to have that. And
Well,
they talked about it a little bit.
as far as the MCU goes, she also had a different journey to becoming a Hulk. It wasn't the same transformation. She was infected with Bruce's blood, who was her blood relative and who is already merged with his Hulk.
Mm,
So who knows if that somehow plays a factor too and why it's easier. I mean, it's it doesn't have to be so one dimensional. You know, I'm sure there are people out there. I know there are people out there because I've read reviews that are upset that she has so much of an easier time than him. But it's a different experience.
yeah.
It's not the only factor, you know.
Yeah, I don't think it's I don't think her expressing her view on things is discounting what the Hulk went through. But at the same time, she's kind of being held captive on this island. Like she wants to go figure things out on her own. You know, like you your parents could tell you how to do everything when you're 18, but like you want to go out in the world and experience it for yourself. That's kind of the vibe that I got from it. I didn't see anything wrong with that. I love that conversation between them.
Yeah, I thought that conversation was definitely interesting. I mean,
Um,
I th
let's so if you were the director, is there anything that you would change in this episode, or maybe something that you would have moving forward?
okay. So I have something that I would change and something I would continue to play into. So pro and
Okay.
a con. So the what I would change is in the beginning of the episode when she got infected with Bruce's blood and
Hmm.
started to you can see green flowing in her arm
Yeah,
and
yeah,
we know she's about to transform. I was kind of shocked. I scrolled to see what the time was and it was like 6 minutes in.
yeah. We got
I
it really quick.
I think that it was too early. And I've seen people say that I've seen reviews saying, "Oh, it came early but it didn't feel rushed." To me it felt kind of rushed. I would have given her at least a day on screen as Jennifer Walters so that we can get to know her and fall in love with who she is before she is She-Hulk.
Yeah,
I want to see like how this is going to affect her life. I don't know what her daily life is. I don't know anything really about her by the time she's become the Hulk. I barely know even a little bit about her personality. So
yeah. Maybe that conversation with Bruce would have landed better
yeah,
if we knew a little bit more about her.
and this they had to squeeze in this man in her office talking down to her, which they could have placed that throughout her day because she talks about being catcalled on the street.
Right.
They could have done multiple examples
And
of
I
that.
love courtroom scenes.
Yeah.
You know, like it would have been really cool to see, like, oh, she's a good lawyer. You know,
They could,
like,
yeah. Well, they could have done a courtroom scene and added those. I think they could have really put us in the shoes of what it's like to be a woman in the modern world, to be like looked at differently, insulted, talked down to. So
yeah.
we really felt the weight of these things rather than her just saying them,
So,
showing, not telling.
so what is something that you would keep carrying on?
I would keep carrying on with the way that they're showing physical representations of strength. Because to me, if you have a strong character on screen and you're just always saying they're strong, I don't really know what that means. I want to see something to
Yeah.
scale it. We saw the Hulk like throw a rock to space.
Yeah.
That's awesome. So now we know we have a better idea of how massively powerful. Or when she transforms into She-Hulk and pushes that wall of saws and like the saws
Yeah.
can't cut her skin and she crushes it back and then rips open the door. Like this is a show about people who have super strength. So I want to see. I don't want to just see them hit somebody because how strong are you really if you hit somebody across the room? I want like a big heavy rock throwing it out into space really gives you an idea of the magnitude of their strength. Like in these shows or animated shows where people are fighting and you can really destroy a mountain or something like
Yeah.
that. Like that, I want to see more of that. They've done a really good job of that, showing the strength.
So the last thing I want to talk about is what did you think about the fourth wall break? Obviously, Daredevil or Deadpool, sorry, is very famous for breaking the fourth wall, which is where he acknowledges or this character acknowledges that there's an audience and that someone is watching this performance, if you will. Like uh, we've seen that in Deadpool 1 and 2. What did you think about She-Hulk breaking the fourth wall?
I like the way that she kind of does it coyly. And when she's with Bruce, when he's sitting at the bar with her as Professor or as Smart Hulk, I like that play there that he is looking over at her. When it first happened, I felt like it was happening really early. I knew there was going to be fourth wall breaks in it,
Yeah.
so maybe just the pacing of it
It happened in the first probably 3 minutes.
Yeah, and then that's where I felt a disconnect was when it just now from there just cuts back to her. Now she's getting her powers. So I just didn't like the pacing of that and that being tied to the fourth wall break.
I
What did you think?
I kind of like that we got to see her be She-Hulk rather quickly. I think you made some really good points of like we don't have a connection to this character. So now that I think about it after what you said, I do wish I knew a little bit more about Jessica Walters. Um,
What
or
was
Jennifer, sorry. See, I don't even know her name.
because they don't. She's just She-Hulk.
Yeah.
I want to ask you what your favorite part of the show was. I will say I know mine is definitely so far Tatiana Maslany, and I think her performance is really good. It's she's funny. She's I think her acting is been really good so far. I like her. She has an enjoyable presence on screen, and she has good magnetism where I feel drawn in, and
Yeah,
I think she's done a good job.
I think my favorite part is that it seems like it's going to be a show about her discovering how to use her powers rather than discovering her powers. Like the origin story, like is very popular. Like everything's getting an origin.
Yeah.
So it's nice that like it's okay, we already found out how she's She-Hulk. Now she's She-Hulk. How does she adapt her life to being this character? I like that aspect of it. I hope that she's a little bit fumbly with it and has to learn lessons and all that stuff. I'm excited to see the cameos. I only know of a few. I intentionally try to avoid as
Just
many as
got
I
it
can.
spoiled for me today.
I want to. I don't want to know like who's coming in. I want to be surprised day of. Um, but yeah, that's pretty much my reactions and thoughts to the first episode. Overall, I think it was good. I don't think it was great. It's definitely not like my favorite show, but I'll keep watching it. I had fun watching it, and yeah, I'll watch it again.
I look forward to seeing where it goes. Talking about episode 2.
Yeah. All right. Thanks for watching. Backseat. I almost forgot her name for a second. So new.
Backseat
What is it? Okay. Thanks for watching Backseat Directing. I'm Aaron.
I'm Andrew.
These shorter episodes will be posted every Thursday. Our longer form episodes posted every Monday.
Please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe. And we'll look forward to interacting with you guys on social media. So
Yeah, follow us on TikTok, Instagram, Facebook, all the social media platforms.
YouTube.
Yeah, that's a big one. All right. Thanks for watching.